Alex Weicker with Amigos Immigration Law and Services. I get a lot of people, they ask me, say, Alex, how do I figure out the household size on my affidavit of support, the form I-864 or the form I-134? Today, I'm going to answer that question for you. It's not a straightforward answer, and if you really want to dig into it, you can look up the answer for yourself. It's in the federal regulations, 8 CFR, section 213a.1. But if you don't want to read that today, I will explain to you exactly who needs to be included in the household size. Why is this an important question? Well, it's because the size of your household is going to determine how much money the sponsor has to make in order to be sufficient. And if that sponsor is insufficient, then you're going to have to go out and find another sponsor. So there's a couple people who are always included in the household size, and there's a couple people who may or may not be, and it causes some problems. First of all, people who are always included. The sponsor. The sponsor is always going to be in the household size. 2, any dependents on the sponsor's most recent federal tax filing. So whether or not those people live with you, if they're dependent, you have to include all of the dependents in the household size. Great. You're always going to include other people that you have sponsored previously, and when the obligation is still continuing and hasn't ended. So that obligation is going to end if you sponsored another immigrant a couple years ago. If they have naturalized, that obligation would end. If they've died, it ends. Or if they have accumulated enough qualifying work hours, so 40 qualifying work quarters, like 10 years of work for the IRS, then the obligation will have ended and you don't have to include them in the household size. Otherwise, you do. The complexity kind of comes in whenever you're talking about the sponsor's children and stepchildren, and also the number of intending immigrants. So I'll talk about those issues separately. So first, let's talk about the sponsor's children. Generally, children, which is somebody who's under 21 and unmarried, need to be included in your household size, whether or not they're dependents. Now, if they've married or if they're 21 or over, you wouldn't have to include them unless they're dependents on your federal tax filings. Stepchildren are also included unless they are not living with you, not included as a dependent, and are not coming over as a stepchild petition, or you file a stepchild petition for them. That's an and. So if that stepchild is living with you, but not claimed as a dependent, they must be included in your household size. Or if that stepchild is not living with you, for example, living with their other parent, and you claim them as independent, then they must be included in your household size. Second problem comes in with the number of intending immigrants that you have to include in the household size. The rule of thumb is that you always have to include the principal immigrant that you're sponsoring. And then you're going to also include the number of derivatives on that principal applicant's petition. So not everybody is going to be a derivative. Derivative is a spouse and child, but you're not always going to include spouse and children in the household size. So for example, if you're a United States citizen and you're petitioning for a spouse, but then you're also petitioning for children and you filed separate petitions for each person. The spouse has one petition, child number 1 has one petition, child number 2 has one petition, then you don't need to include all of them in your household size because you're filing separate affidavits of support for each immigrant. So if you are petitioning, let's just say you're married, your spouse lives in Argentina, and they have 2 children that qualify as stepchildren, you're petitioning for them separately. Each I-864 is going to have 1 immigrant. Even though they may all be immigrating at the same time, you only have to put 1 of them in your household size. Now, it's different if the principal applicant has derivatives and it's a priority class petition. For instance, if you petition for your sibling and your sibling is going to be bringing their spouse and children, they would all be derivatives and they'd be included in the same I-864. In that case, you're going to include all of them in the household size unless any of those derivatives are not planning to immigrate to the United States within 6 months of the principal immigrant. In that case, you could exclude them. Otherwise, they're all going to be included. If you're not sure exactly what is a derivative, who the principal is, then you might want to contact an immigration attorney to help you out with this question. A lot of people get it wrong, but it's important to get it right so you don't have any problems at the consulate or in the green card process.